Hey, I'm Michael, and today we'll be doing a batting order app that I created, so let's get into it. All right, so what did I build? I built a team roster batting order here. So I love baseball, or now I play softball, but I thought this would be a really cool application to build. And the killer feature is that you can randomize the roster here. So usually there's a strict roster with baseball, but what if you switched it and did a shuffle and randomized it? Okay, so I built this application. All the code is for free. You can have it. You can do whatever you want with it. Let me show you the repo here. So it's go ship code, random batting order, and all the codes here. You can clone it, fork it, contribute, whatever you want. And I've tried to put a good README here so that you can just quickly clone it and get up and running if you want to use part of it. Hopefully it'll help you out in some way. Cool, so let's quickly walk through the technologies. So I used React 18. I used the React select for the select here. So the select position. So this is the select React component. And then I use the MDB React UI kit for the look and feel, the design template, essentially. Okay, so basically you just need to clone it. You can then go into the directory, npm install. If you don't have Node, you need to install it here. And then you can just do npm start. And then you'll have it available on localhost 3000 inside your browser. If some of this stuff doesn't work, feel free to put an issue on the repo and let me know. So that's the easiest way to get started and to do development. You can also run it with Docker, which I think is cool. So you can build the Docker image, you can upload it somewhere, you can build it, you can use like Amazon ECS or Kubernetes, wherever you want to deploy it to. Or you can run it locally here with Docker run. And then I also deployed this thing to GitHub Pages, so now it's publicly available. So that's the site you see here. So whenever you have a repo, you can push to a branch and host it with GitHub Pages. And I give you instructions on how to do that here. Okay, and then there's just a few known bugs, mainly around the select. As you can see here, third base here is highlighted. I hit the edit buttons. Third base doesn't come up here. Even if I do hit third base, it then pops up here. Then I say John here. Then I hit randomize a bunch of times. If I go back to John, you can see third base doesn't show up here. But third base is always connected to John, even when I randomize it. So in my mind, the functionality is still there. It's not perfect. There's some quirks with it. But yeah, just wanted to call out the bugs in case you were using it and were surprised by that. All right, so that is how to run it and how to get going. I'm going to do a quick code walkthrough, but feel free to drop if you don't want to go through the code walkthrough. But I'll try to make it painless. Okay, so this is built with the create React app command line tool. So it generates a lot of this kind of sample code for you, and you start writing your code in the app.js, right? Okay, so I first am using state, and I'm using an array inside state. This array holds a number of objects, and these objects you can just think of as the rows in the table. Okay, so there's 9 rows by default. As you can see, there's 9 rows here. This array can grow, it can shrink, right? So here's an example of it growing. I can push add player, or I can shrink it by deleting rows, right? And then because React is managing this array in state, in the code, or I guess in the browser right here, React only sees 6 items in the array. If I add another one, it would see then 7. So this array right here is growing and shrinking depending on what the user is doing. And the state is being updated throughout the React application. All right, and then let's see. Here's the function for randomizing it. There's a little shuffle function down here. Let's get into the JSX. So I have a custom component called batting table. That's the actual table that you see. We pass the array as props to that, and these are state props, right? So they're passing the state down to child components. If some of this doesn't make sense, feel free to Google any of it or ask me questions, or just play around with this application and really try to track through what's happening with each button click, where functions are being called, right? So you can easily go in here, go to inspect, go to the console. You can see I have a bunch of things being printed out here. So if I hit that, you can see now the table has 7 elements, and you can see all the elements that are inside here, right? So some of these don't have positions yet that I filled out. So let's give this one a position. Okay. And as you can see now, the current array has second base in there. So you can kind of play around with the console and have it running on your laptop and see how it's working. Great. All right, quickly, let's go to the batting table component here. So we got batting table, which is the child component. Okay, batting table.js. This is what the table structure actually gets created in the HTML or JSX. So here's the table headings, and then I loop through this array using the map function. Like I said, it's looping, but it's transforming it, right? Because it's a map. And it's creating an item for each item in the array, right? And then I have another child component called item, which I pass the key. So an item is just a row, okay? Here. And then the item actually has a little bit more code because it has to do with the modal and how to modify different things. So here's the item. I have a few state objects here. A few functions here for handling all the button clicks, right? Like the little pen to modify it, the little trash can to delete it. And here's all the code for the modal. So I won't go too much into this. You can play around with it locally. The goal really was to see if I could create this application in React, because I'm still kind of new to React. So learning it, and then hopefully it'll help someone else out there. I will highlight the one gotcha that took me a long time with this application, and that is modifying an array in state. So I mentioned that in the app.js, there was an array here, right? You see this array? It is not straightforward to just straight update this array with the set array function. You have to create a new array, like a brand new one, and then set the array. So I'm doing that here, and then set that new array so that the React state can know that it needs to be refreshed or re-rendered. I was having some trouble with that, so feel free to look at how I'm doing that here. So for instance, this randomize function, we actually have to create a brand new array every time we randomize it. Then I'll run a shuffle on it, and then I'll set the new array. So I was looking at some documentation and some blogs and stuff online. You really have to create a new array to be able to refresh the state properly. And you can do that with this like spread dot notation in JavaScript. So just remember that if you're ever updating an array in state. So that was a new learning for me. But anyways, I hope you learned something, and I hope you can use it for your own benefit. If not, I'll have more apps coming down the way, and hopefully you can use those. But yeah, thanks a lot. And if you play softball or baseball, feel free to use this. It's going to be publicly available on this site, so check it out. Cool. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.